Hello, and welcome back to How to Write Properly, a daily course on style and expression with me, Dr. Adam James Smith. It's a daily course, and this is day 5, so the end of our first working week. And the subject today is, or appropriately, subject plus verb equals basic sentence. So all this week, we've been working through the different aspects of a basic sentence. So in day 1, Monday, we talked about verbs, which are doing words. We talked about adjectives, which are describing words. We talked about nouns on Wednesday, which are naming words. Yesterday, we talked about this a little bit slightly more abstract idea of subject, the thing that your sentence is about. And today we're going to be putting verbs and subjects together to create a basic sentence. So what is a simple sentence? A simple sentence contains a subject. It has to be about someone or something, someone who is doing or being. And it may also have an object and modifiers. Don't worry too much about that for now. It's important to remember, though, that every sentence that we write has to stand alone as an independent unit. You should also always almost imagine when you're doing your writing that you could pick the sentence out of your essay or your piece of work, whatever it is, and drop it into a separate vacuum, as it were, and that sentence should still make sense. Sentences have to be independent individual units. All the information you need to understand what that sentence is conveying has to be inside the sentence, and that'll become more important later. So here's some examples. He wrote. Very simple 2-word sentence. He is the subject. Wrote is what he did. That's your verb. He wrote. That's a sentence. Just 2 words. You don't need any more. He wrote. We've got everything we need. And Kathy shrank. So Kathy is our subject. The verb is her shrinking. She got smaller. Kathy shrank. Don't need any more than that. You can have a 2-word sentence. They completed their coursework. So we've got them completing something. That is the verb. There's they, the person that the verb applies to. That's your subject. And we've got an object here as well, which is their coursework, the thing that they're doing through the verb. They completed their coursework. And similarly, she organized her books alphabetically. So the organization is the verb, that's your doing word. And she, that's the person the verb applies to. She is doing the organizing. What is she organizing? Well, the object of the sentence is her book, and she's doing them alphabetically. That's a modifier, but like I say, you don't need to worry about that for now. The things that you definitely have to have is a subject and a verb on all of those sentences. Have those. There are other things that the sentence must have as well. So when we talked about nouns, I said proper nouns need capital letters. You also need a capital letter to start a sentence. A new sentence begins with a capital letter. I always think of it as, you know, when you're speaking to someone on a walkie-talkie and you sort of say begin transmission, and then at the end over. It's a bit like that. You've got to open the transmission with a capital letter to show that a new sentence has started. A sentence ends with punctuation, a period. If you're American, in England, that would just be a full stop. A question mark or an exclamation mark. That's how you end. You have to have punctuation at the end to end your sentence. A sentence contains a subject that is only given once. So in the other examples, it was the he and the they. You only need one subject for a sentence. If you've got different subjects coming in, you should probably be writing multiple sentences. A sentence contains a verb or a verb phrase. So all sentences have to have something happening in them. There has to be a doing aspect of the sentence. A sentence follows subject plus verb plus object or word order. If you get these in the wrong order, it starts to get complicated and convoluted. So for a basic sentence, just go subject, verb, the object that the verb and the subject are dealing with. And a sentence must have a complete idea, as I was saying before. Sentences have to be able to exist in a vacuum. So we've got an example of a basic sentence at the bottom here. She obtained her driver's license, and you can see that has everything you need. She is the subject. The verb is the obtaining. The object is the driving license. You don't have to have an object, but if you do want one, that's where you put it. Has a capital letter at the start. It has a full stop at the end. It's got everything you need. It's a complete sentence. So that's what a basic sentence looks like. With those rules in mind, we can now look at more complicated writing, perhaps when we're proofreading our own work, and we can see when something is missing, something's gone wrong, which affects the expression and the clarity. So a sentence here that I made up, but based on many real examples. The use of description and differences in setting to establish the difference between communities in the north and south, full stop. So something has gone wrong here. It may have seemed to the hypothetical author that this made sense when it was bookended by other sentences, but as a standalone sentence, as we're viewing it now in a vacuum, it doesn't make sense. So if we find the verb, it's the use. Something or someone is using description and difference in setting to establish the differences in communities in the North and South, but we don't know who. This sentence doesn't have a subject. So you could change this, if it was, for example, Elizabeth Gaskill was the person this was referring to, you could change it to Elizabeth Gaskill uses description and differences in setting to establish the difference between communities in the North and South, and that would be fine. You can even have, it's a little bit more convoluted, but you can even have the use of description differences in setting by Elizabeth Gaskill establishes the difference between communities in the North and South. But without that subject, this doesn't work as a sentence. Similarly, the next one, therefore making Chaucer's message more effective. So we've got a verb, and we've even got a character here in Chaucer, but we don't know what it is that's making Chaucer's message more effective when this sentence stands alone. So what is it that's happening that's making this message more effective? We don't have verb, subject, and object in that sentence. So that's why all of this is important. I started at the very basic steps this week to get to this point, because it might seem obvious. As I've mentioned in every episode, this stuff is done by little tiny children in primary schools, but it's easy to forget the basics when you're doing your own writing and produce sentences which actually, like these, look quite complex, but they're missing fundamental aspects, which is compromising their meaning and making them difficult to read, and as a result, making the message muddied and lost. So if you've enjoyed this week and you haven't found it too patronizing, starting where we did, join me again next week, where it seems to be working, so I'll keep going. We'll be looking at slightly more complex sentences. On the first day, Monday, we'll look at connectives, then subordinate clauses, then parentheses, then dashes, then colons, semicolons, and lists. So hopefully by a week today, you'll have encountered everything that you definitely need to know about if you're doing academic writing. There will be more complicated things out there. We might explore them, I don't know. But by a week tomorrow, you'll have all of the basics under your belt, and you should be able to write something with quite a lot of clarity and conviction. So thanks very much for listening. That's been interesting. It's certainly kept me engaged and given me something to live for. And hopefully, whatever you're doing this weekend, I hope you have a good time. And I'll see you on the other side.